In this video, you're going to see me get accustomed to my brand new giant Trance Advanced Pro. I'm going to go to some trails that I've never been to before on the Sunshine Coast in BC and watch as my brand new $2,000 drone gets stuck up in a tree. No! So stay tuned, this is going to be a good one. Having just got this brand new bike, I wanted to head out and go on a trip in the van, start the year off. So I got onto the ferry, headed to Roberts Creek, which is on the Sunshine Coast in BC, and check out the trails there. So we arrived at the trailhead, got the bikes out, got the cameras ready, got all our gear on. Setting up my bike, tire pressure is the most important thing. On my first few rides, I've been doing 20 PSI in the front, 22 in the back, and it's been working pretty well. Suspension wise, I've got 64 PSI in the fork and whatever tokens it came with. I'm pretty sure it comes with 2 tokens. In the back, there's 135mm travel on this Trance Advanced Pro. Sponsor's dream, Joel, am I right? And I've got 170 PSI in the back. We opened up Trail Forks and found a trail called Mac Chicken, which is a black rated trail, and it's super famous. I've always wanted to go and ride it. So we headed up the gravel road and got to the top of the trail. The start of the trail has this kind of start gate. I guess there's a lot of races that happen there. And after just rolling down it to start off with, I thought it'd be quite funny to drop this thing to flat. But the first go didn't really go that great because this bike is so much longer than I'm used to. And I was probably not a million miles away from going over the bars and having a very early end to this week. But after the first effort, I figured it out. And the first impression of the bike, it was pretty bottomless. Heads up, I am sponsored by Giant Bikes now and pretty much all the brands that you're gonna see in this video. I dropped into the trail and I probably got a little bit too excited. As you can see here, I came into this first turn probably faster than I've ever hit a turn in my life, and so fast in fact that I'd actually managed to unclip on my inside foot. So on the Shimano pedals, all you have to do is tighten up the tension, and eventually I just kept going until I stopped unclipping. And for the rest of the week, I didn't have any more problems of my feet coming out. But right from the beginning, I felt so comfortable on this thing, and this is what I'm going to spend a lot of this video talking about. My first impressions, what I've noticed about the different sizing, any adjustments that I'm going to make. So hopefully if you're thinking about this bike, you know, it might be a little bit useful. After the first couple of turns, we found these rollers that you could definitely double. And one thing I was really feeling on this bike is that it definitely pops up a lot easier than bikes I've had before. So I guess this was the perfect thing to test that out on. I really did over celebrate the first run here because I clearly cased it. I just didn't feel casing it at all. And the second run was probably fine, but Joel just unfortunately cut off the bottom of my wheels. And then on the third one, definitely got it dialed. I could have probably been a bit more over to the left, but I was pretty happy with this little hop. So let's jump into what I'm learning about this bike. Yep, it's a bit longer. It's actually 20mm longer on the reach than my old bike. So instead of running a 50mm OneUp stem like I used to, I'm now running the 35mm option. So mathematically, it's only 5mm longer, but it feels so much bigger than that. And not only is the reach bigger, but the wheelbase is obviously longer as well. So I do have to get used to that, but I'm already finding some positives here. When I'm riding down the trail, I do feel a lot more in the bike, and that's helping me to feel more stable, more comfortable. And I do feel like I'm riding a bit faster than I was before, especially as I've barely ridden over the last couple of months. So I think this feeling of comfort is helping me probably go a bit faster. It definitely feels, as I'm going around a turn, that I'm on rails. It just feels like I'm able to get onto the side knobs of the tires and just carve it a little bit easier than I have done in the past. And with that feeling of being inside the bike, I can push on the handlebars and just kind of load the front and the back wheels a lot easier actually. I thought it would be harder, but what I will say is that I do still have to get more forward than I think I do. I think that longer stem was pulling me more forwards on the bike. So I've just got to get used to how that's different as well. And it pops up really well. I've already mentioned this, and I hate using the words poppy and playful, but I just can't. I can't not say it. Every time there was a jump, every time there was a lip, I wanted to hit it and I wanted to get the bike up in the air. And there you go. That's how to jump a double first time. Oh. 0 jabs, 0 cases. What is it, 15 feet? Yeah, sorry. There's an entire trail. Look, Joel just doesn't have the faith. I just need to go a bit quicker. I cased the crap out of it. It felt like I landed it butter smooth. Oh, first try. Let's go. How you go double for the first time? It's just about committing and you'll never case again.
It's pretty simple.
This might be the most comfortable I've ever felt riding a mountain bike, but this is very early days. I don't want to commit to anything that I'm going to regret in the future. How things have started off, I'm really happy. And one big difference I was noticing was that the free hub on the giant wheels, it's so quiet. I've always been a loud, clicky hub kind of guy, but I might be sold. Do you have a silent hub? Let me know in the comments below. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Do you prefer a loud one? I think I'm gonna get on with this more silent free hub. And really what this comes down to is addressing the concerns I had about choosing the Trance over like a Rain, which I've seen some comments. A lot of people are wondering why, living in BC, do I not have the longer travel giant Rain? But I really wanted to slim the bikes down that I have this year, and if I'm going to do that, I need an all-round trail bike. But if it can handle the trails around BC, then 100% I've chosen the right bike. Things were getting really dark and we couldn't actually see. The camera was picking up the image better than our eyes were. So we called it a day and went down and picked up some local beers from Persephone Brewery, which isn't far away from the Trailhead. I went with the lager because I'm not really like a serious beer drinking IPA hoppy kind of guy, and it was great. So if you're in the area, highly recommend Persephone Brewery. The next day, we planned to film this trail difficulty guide video that I wanted to do. I want to show the difference between a green, a blue, and a black trail. So if you want to be notified of that video, make sure you're subscribed to the channel by clicking the subscribe button down below. I think it's something like 70% of the people that watch my videos aren't subscribed. But before we started filming, I wanted to try out my new Skydio 2 drone that I bought a few weeks ago. Every time we film, things just grind to a halt the moment that the drone goes up into the air. The thing that makes this drone so special is that it can follow a person, in my case, a rider. I'd learned the controls, everything was updated, and I pushed the button and it launched up into the air. I was going to use this footage to talk about the climbing on the Giant because actually it's blowing my mind. So very quickly, I don't lock this thing out. I know, some of you might be watching at home going, but Paul, I don't lock out my suspension either. Well, for many years, all I've done is lock out the suspension. I don't know what's going on, this is what's happening, and it's blowing my mind. So it went up perfectly fine, and it was tracking me just as I'd planned. But as I went up for this second lap up this fire road here, bad things started to happen. It got itself stuck in some branches, and then as I tried to come back down the road, it lost me completely. And then, for whatever reason, it decided to set its home point way off into the woods. And it just took off and flew. And as I looked at the footage on my phone, all I could do was watch it fly off into the opposite direction. I tried running after it, chasing it into the woods, but it was this moment where all the laughing and the jokes about drones stopped. I ran back down the road to go and get Joel and tell him that we've got to drop everything and go after this drone because now it's a rescue mission. It had disconnected from my phone, but there is a find function on the app that I was using, so I knew where its coordinates were. And after a bit of scrambling in the woods, Joel started to hear something, and then my phone and controller connected back up again.
Yeah, it's like right here, Paul.
But the bad news was that there was only 7% battery remaining, and this thing was probably going to go down any minute. It was trying to come back towards where we were, but it was so high up over the canopy that I didn't think it would find me in time. I thought that I saw that it was clear past some trees, and if I hit the land button, it would just go straight down and we could go down and get it. And that was the mistake I made, because when it started to come down, it caught a tree and started tumbling towards the ground.
What was it doing? Wait. Oh. No! 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 No!
And the worst bit was that we didn't hear it hit the ground, which only meant one thing: it was stuck up in a tree. I think, needless to say, I was a little bit upset.
$2,000 and it just flies off.
Luckily, the app still had its GPS point, so we kind of knew where it would be, so we could look up and find it in a tree. And yep, I was still pretty upset.
Oh, hi.
The ironic thing, of course, here is that this drone was meant to make life a lot easier, and now we're about to waste a whole bunch of time looking for this thing instead of out filming like we should be. But then Joel spotted it in a tree, and it was so high up in the branches. So we found some rocks and hopelessly started throwing them at the drone to see if we could dislodge it from the branches. In the end, we were running out of time, and I just had to leave it. and I was pretty crushed. But we went back, got the bikes, and started focusing on the video. For the green trail, we rode Sleepy Hollow, which was perfect, and the forest around it was so green, it looked amazing. For the blue trail, we chose this one called Twister, which also had remnants of an old freeride line, which was pretty cool. And it was kind of the perfect blue, and it was exactly what I was looking for. And you've probably also spotted that I'm wearing the Team Slow and Awkward jersey, which is available now, clicking the link in the description below and heading over to my store. Not only do I have the riding jersey, but I've also got t-shirts and other merch as well, including the Sponsors Dream stuff, which looks fantastic. And what you should know about my merch is that all the profits I get from it go straight back into the production costs of my video. Once we'd wrapped on Twister, we headed over to the bottom of Mac Chicken, which we didn't get to film on the first day. And this would be the perfect black trail because it looks quite smooth at the top, as you saw at the beginning of the video, but down at the bottom right at the end, it's really quite chunky and rough. And the perfect black trail to show off what a black trail should be. But not even the Sony could keep up with how dark it was at 5 p.m. and we had to call an end to a pretty frustrating day. So by now I've had a solid amount of time on the bike and figured out the most important thing, which is what I should call this thing. And I've gone with Panther because I mean, it's just so stealthy. But just as important as this, I knew the first couple of changes that I wanted to make to the bike. And that was to put a little bit more air in the rear shock, going from 170 PSI to 175.
So the best way I can describe what I'm looking for and what I'm thinking about with my suspension is, especially in straight lines, I kind of felt like the bike was starting to do this, but it wasn't packing down. So unlike the third or the fourth route of compression, it wasn't going dun-dun-dun. It was just riding like this.
And then also put a bit more air into the Kenda Hellcats. I mean, it was only 2 PSI, but I just wanted the carcass to be a bit more rigid in the turns. Oh, and you should probably know that if you live in the United States, there's another link in the description below, and you can use code Punter 2021 and you get 30% off tires, which is a hell of a lot of money off some tires. I started riding and straight off the bat, the changes felt great. And I don't think I'm actually going to change them for quite a while. But I know a lot of you thinking, Paul, there's no way you're not going to change it. And I mean, you're probably right. And after we'd finished on that, we headed up to Cunning Stunts, which is a bit of a legendary trail with this really long, skinny track all the way around it. And after we'd finished getting the perfect thumbnail image, I got the best phone call I could have possibly hoped for.
That was Todd Joel. Arborist, tree surgeon, whatever you want to call him. I put out on my Insta stories, the pigeon has gone missing, and then someone just replied, actually, oh, I'm gonna give full credit here. John Rogers, who colored my What Is a Punter video, legend, colored by Rogers on Instagram. He was the first to reply, say, have you tried a tree surgeon? So we're gonna go and try a tree surgeon right now. Fingers crossed, Joel.
Immediately, I idolized Todd, and he must have been the toughest guy I've met lately, because that morning, he'd actually managed to knock one of his teeth out, but he was still working. We walked up to the crash site, and I showed him just how high up this drone was. We were looking at probably 50 feet or something, I think. He said it was no problem though, and put on his gear. Turns out this guy has pulled out a whole load of drones out of trees, so he was pretty experienced at doing this. In fact, he'd been climbing up trees and cutting them down for 35 years.
I've never been so happy to see a man climb a tree. There it is. Close to it? Right there. Todd might be the biggest badass I've ever seen in my life. So he's up there, look where he is right now. He's so high up, and he's just said that the tactic of getting the drone is he's gonna go higher, then swing down and go get it. He's like, no bother, no bother.
After not much time, Todd got his hands on the drone,
Yeah, boy!
sent it down on a rope, and I had it back in my hands.
As I thought, no battery, but lens is fine, all the rotor blades are great. I'm so stoked. You stoked?
I'm stoked.
Oh, I'm stoked big time.
The battery is held in with a magnet and it had fallen out when it hit the tree. I did have a quick look down below, but I couldn't find anything. And with rain on the way, I cut my losses and it was time to get back to riding.
So that was a pretty reasonable 200 bucks to get that out of the tree. And I just want to say, this is where people that join my Patreon, I do regular podcasts on there and more behind the scenes stuff, and buy my merch, all the profits from that go into the cost of these videos. You know, you don't have to pay for them, they're free videos. If you just comment, like, I appreciate that support as well. Patreon, merch, this is what helps fund these videos. They can get dramatically expensive in just a short space of time.
Right after we got the drone, the rain arrived, but we still headed back up to check out Cunning Stunts, and it was so cool to check out some of this old woodwork, but it doesn't look like it's riding anymore. So did you like this kind of video? Hey, let me know by hitting that like button down below, and make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you want to check out some of my future videos. But most importantly, watch this thing twice. Cheers, punters. I'll see you next time.